Hey guys, I'm in an interesting cafe today. This is a little bit further out from the city, meeting with someone. I'm going to be doing some translations for some of the channels that I'm trying to build for my Vietnamese channel. So I'm going to be working on that, trying to get some basic things translated into some of the other languages and trying to keep it as simple as I can. And that's kind of one of the things I wanted to go over a little bit today, is that for those of you guys who have been following me, knowing that I'm going to be learning more about programming, smart contracts, programming in general. And the course that I'm taking with VietAnhCrypto is basically structured in a way where it's going to teach you some of the basics first. And so basically, if you're looking at it kind of from an overall picture, right now a lot of the development is happening in the Solidity programming language. In order to really understand how to get into that world, you have to have a little bit of a background and understanding in some of the other languages, and kind of a lot of them are kind of built on top of each other in a way where you have to have a little bit of a kind of a basic understanding of how some of these other programming languages work in order to understand something that has basically advanced, which is the Solidity language. And so I thought this was kind of interesting. I was going through some of the videos, but I wanted to kind of do my own take on some of the programming languages. So when I've actually learned programming. I know HTML, Java, and C++. It's just been a long time. I took several courses back in college and had gone through and had learned. A lot of these had built different codes, and with Java and C++. There was many times when I was going through that process where I really had to rely on somebody that knew it better than I did. So essentially with programming, and a lot of times I feel like you can have a general understanding of how things should be, you can put it all together, but when it doesn't work, or you have essentially like a bug in the system, something's going wrong, and if it's outside of your knowledge area, it can be a little bit difficult to track. You can kind of come back a little bit in your code and really kind of see like where it tripped up and where it happened, and that's the best way to kind of troubleshoot or problem solve different programming things that you're trying to do. But I wanted to start off with just kind of like going over, for those of you guys that just really don't have any kind of background in HTML, this is something that you would see on a very kind of basic markup for like a web page, essentially like an intro, an outro. You have different parts of the website, and this is kind of how this is going to be structured. So this one right here is actually for HTML5, which has been more of the newer programming language that you've seen. And there's a few different things to learn when you're kind of getting into some of these. But I left the links for these 4 programming languages below. So I've had a couple of people that have reached out to me. They're kind of interested in learning more about this. As I'm going through it, I'm going to try my best to try to teach it back to people that are interested in learning it. So there's a few other guys that are taking the course with me. They have their own forum, and now the forum is anyone is welcome to join their forum. So I was a little bit hesitant at first, but then I ended up setting up an account, because it seems like they do a lot of troubleshooting and problem solving through their forum. So it's going to take me a second to pull this up, but so moving on from HTML, I'll just show you guys the forum real quick. It's this forum at Toshi Times. I'll put a link in the description below, so you can see forum toshitimes.com. And so this is kind of the forum that VietAnhCrypto is using, with his community. So some of the other ones, like Bitcoin Talk, there's Reddit, GitHub. several of the other, like I had an account in Hotspot. There's several of kind of forums online where you can kind of interact and work with people that maybe understand it a little bit better than you. So building a little bit of community is important to kind of enhance your ability to learn this kind of highly technical subject, because it gets to a point sometimes where you know, it can be confusing. Like I know I got tripped up a lot of times when I started getting into programming, because it was just like I thought I had everything right and it doesn't work. It's really hard for me to figure out why. And then you know, having some people around it that know it a little bit better than you is great, you know, because they can kind of help teach you and kind of, you know, maybe change the way that you're thinking about getting into trying to code and program. The next one, so like in HTML is a very kind of front end way of interacting with something like a smart contract. I mean, anyone can really write a smart contract, but you still have to have a way to interact with it. The smart contract lives on the back end. It's going to be something that's like, you know, you're not necessarily going to be able to see in a visual sense, like, you know, through some sort of user interface. Like you're going to need to understand a little bit about HTML in order to do that. And then once you start getting into something that it starts involving a little bit more logic, a little bit more interactivity, a little bit of a action with the website, and that's when you're going to want to start getting into something with Java. It's you know, a little bit. You know, I would say it's fairly easy to learn. It's pretty straightforward, but it's something that you know, is kind of become like a basis, very basic programming language to get into coding. What about XAML? I'm not as familiar with that. You gotta understand, like I'm still very new with coding, so it sounds like you might know a little bit more perhaps than I do in this area. What I'm going to be looking to do is basically try to, with the best of my knowledge and ability, kind of look into you know, trying to dive deep into programming and learn it to a level where I can basically get the general message across and have that kind of put into something where I can have that translated into other languages. So front end C plus, the back end. Okay. So, but the next one we're going to be getting into is C++. C++ is a little bit more tricky, at least that was in my experience when I started learning it. So this gives you a little bit of information, just kind of on the history. And then this is kind of more of like what I'm kind of looking for. This is going to give you an example of kind of, you know, different parameters that you can set up for setting up coding in these different languages. So it has its downfalls, you can see here. And then, of course, the last one, this is the one that you're going to need to understand. This is the programming language for writing smart contracts. And so having a basis in those other three is really going to give you a great foundation to work within this programming language. You can see here is, influenced by JavaScript, C++. I've heard of Python. I don't know much about PowerShell, but there's information on GitHub. So if you guys are interested, I thought this was kind of interesting. They're talking about the DAO hack with Ethereum, and it really had nothing to do with the actual, contract itself, but it was actually more of a fault of Solidity, stating it was not an actual flaw or exploit in the DAO contract itself. Technically it was, operating as intended, but Solidity was introducing security flaws into contracts that were not only missed by the community, but missed by the designers of the language themselves. I thought that was really interesting. So for those of you guys that don't know, the DAO hack was when Ethereum forked from Ethereum to Ethereum Classic, essentially having kind of an exploit in the framework of that platform, where it required a hard fork. And now that you have those two coins, and Ethereum Classic was always one that I kind of liked. I was probably a lot more bullish on Ethereum Classic than others would have been. and it was trending in the in the top top 10 for a long time. It's dropped down a little bit, but still at the 18th position in terms of overall market cap. It's been around a long time. If you take a look at kind of just like the history of this coin, started basically in that summer, July of 2016. And started last summer, kind of died down again, kind of in that early January timeframe, was doing pretty well. But this one typically has a lot of volume in some of the other, the kind of the foreign exchanges, as you can kind of see here. And so this one always, 34 million, it's almost like 20, what is that, 44%. Plus you've got this one down here, 40, like almost 50%. It's an OKEX. And OKEX has been, if we're looking at the exchange volumes, has been the #1 exchange in the world recently here. It's been outpacing Binance. The amount of EOS being traded there is pretty impressive. But Binance basically in the second position. So that's just to give you a little bit of a history on that. But Solidity itself was the one that I was kind of interested in understanding a little bit more. And you can see, like, in terms of kind of how this functionality is structured. There's it's going to be a good learning experience, because I don't know anything about Solidity really. Only the very, very basics. So I encourage you guys, if you guys are interested in this topic, leave some of your questions and comments below, or feel free to reach out and email me. Or I think what I'm also going to try to do here pretty soon is I want to set up my own Discord channel, and just kind of have it as like a place to just kind of chat about different things that I'm kind of working on right now. So I'll be working on that here pretty soon, and this will be some of the stuff that I'm interested in kind of diving into. So a lot of this is kind of like it's going to be kind of work on your own to kind of build up your knowledge level. And so that's what I'm going to be doing today, is pretty much watching a lot of videos, learning about this subject, while I'm also helping someone to kind of help me translate this and get this into another language so I can post it on my Vietnamese channel. So working on that. But that was kind of like the basics, like that I'm kind of looking at is those 4 languages, understanding them at a very high level and trying to basically explain that so that it can be translated into other languages. For a lot of people, that may be very basic stuff, but it's kind of a first step to bridging the language barrier, or the language gap. That's going to be my plan here for the next month or so, as long as it kind of takes me to really dive deep into this course. So I'll show you guys just kind of a little bit. So this is kind of how it looks. You have you have videos, you have some kind of quizzes, some different things. So I really like the layout of this course, and by the end of it, it's a very lengthy course. I mean, I don't have no idea how long this is going to take me to get through, but there's a lot of information. So he definitely did a great job of incorporating a lot of material for people that are interested in this topic. He's basically recommending that he wants people to kind of have a basic understanding of HTML, Java, C++ before he starts moving into object-oriented programming and kind of next level Ethereum smart contracts. One of the things I like, though, is he's also getting into talking about programming these on NEM and EOS. So 2 different ways of programming smart contracts on something other than Ethereum. So some flies here. This is crazy tables they've got here. I was like, I had to sit down and check it out. I like it. It's peaceful. No one really speaks English though. It's you get a little bit. What is the scope of Java? I guess I'm gonna have to probably have a better way of kind of explaining that. I mean, Java for the most part is just a way to incorporate something that is a little bit more interactive on an HTML-based website. Is the way I'm understanding it. So having a little bit of a background in that is going to be necessary for kind of taking some of the next steps with some of these programming languages. And I think part of it is like I really just kind of have to push through the videos and kind of have like I want to be able to do like a 2 to 5 minute video, just really kind of laying out a lot of the basics with these languages, and then try to see if I can get that video translated. Kind of see how that does. If I can connect with a lot of the programmers that are speaking these different languages, I'm looking to get in that. Java, I don't know if Java may be dead in terms of like its usability. Like people might not be using it as much anymore. But the way that this course is structured, and also the way that I learned was Java was kind of like a necessary first step. It's almost like kind of taking some of the steps of kind of getting into programming and learning. So that's going to give you a little bit of a better background or understanding of the way that you should be looking at coding and programming in general, as opposed to maybe just jumping straight into something like Solidity. And I think there's also some basic ways, some basic concepts and things that are needed to some of the principles. Here's some interesting thing. So here's the 5 principles. There are 5 primary goals in the creation of the Java language: simple, object-oriented, familiar, robust, secure, architecture neutral, and portable. Must execute with high performance, must be interpreted, threaded, and dynamic. So there's some different versions. I kind of like some of those kind of like higher level thoughts. This is kind of interesting as well. I'll show this to you guys. This is the Programming Community Index. I believe this is kind of more of like the popularity of programming languages. And you can kind of see like the year down here. So you can still see like, I guess it was in a very downward trend in terms of like how Java was being, used according to this, TIOBE. But there's been a recent uptick with Java and C, which is a little bit strange for me. You have all these other ones down here. And then, Solidity doesn't even make the list. So that's something that I'm actually thinking is going to be something that's somewhat common. Like I think Solidity is really, is really right now primarily in English. There's not a whole lot of people in these foreign languages that are understanding that. So like when you're talking with developers and people that have some experience with programming and coding, maybe they're coming from some of these, from Java, C++, worlds, or maybe they step into something like Python, which for the way I understand is a little bit more involved. SQL. I was working with SQL programmers in my previous line of work. Ruby. They also had some other ones, but yeah. So I'm gonna be. This is gonna be my focus here for this vlog. For moving forward, is I'm gonna be giving you guys a little bit of my kind of my educational coursework and kind of what I'm learning, and trying to commute some of this stuff back to you guys and see what you guys think. So, but yeah, a lot to learn, a lot to dive into. So, but give you guys a little bit of a peek before I get off the stream here. This is kind of like a loungy Cafe. Vintage Vietnam. All right, guys. I'll catch you guys on the next one.